A wild police chase involving a Rolls Royce on the Gardiner. A carjacking suspect jumps from the busy expressway, falling 17 meters while fleeing officers. We have the dramatic details tonight.
And not even the premier is immune to auto theft in Ontario. Doug Ford says 4 masked suspects tried to steal a car from his Etobicoke driveway this morning, describing them as stupid criminals. He also took another jab at the bail system. More on his fiery remarks.
And after years of going off the rails, the Eglinton Crosstown LRT is getting closer to opening day. What we're learning about the line's September opening, that's coming up.
Plus, Donald Trump leaves the G7 summit early, but there's plenty of news coming out of Alberta today. Canada issues sanctions against Russia after welcoming Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. And we're watching Mark Carney's controversial meeting with India's Prime Minister this hour.
You're watching Live at 5.
I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. We are learning more about that chaotic situation on the Gardiner Expressway last night. A suspect suffered serious injuries when he jumped off the Gardiner while fleeing officers. It all started with a carjacking involving a Rolls Royce.
And CP24's Beatrice Vaisman has the latest on the investigations underway by police and Ontario's police watchdog, continuing our live coverage. Beatrice.
Incredibly dramatic video, Lena and Bakari. An incredibly dramatic situation unfolding between 11 o'clock last night and midnight. We're going to show you the video of the police takedown when about 8 police vehicles, marked and unmarked, including those from the emergency task force, boxed in a white BMW SUV. At that point, already the only person that police and the SIU believe was inside that SUV, already got out of the vehicle, ran away, trying to evade police, and jumped or fell 17 meters from the Gardiner Expressway onto the lakeshore below. We're just near Parliament. You mentioned a Rolls Royce being stolen. Let's reverse even before that. 11:08 last night, CP24 learning this all actually began. A vehicle matching the description of that very white BMW that we've been showing you on your screen was involved in an attempted carjacking. This is on North Town Way in the Yonge and Finch area. Unsuccessful. The suspects jumped back into their car, drove to the shops at Don Mills and Lawrence. And that's when they approach, I guess, someone who's got a Rolls Royce. The man who was the victim of this carjacking, armed carjacking, telling police, I'm told from sources, that he did see a gun. He was thankfully not injured, but several suspects making off with his very expensive Rolls Royce and that white BMW. Police following them, along with the chopper from York Police, tracking these 2 vehicles south along the Don Valley Parkway onto the Gardiner Expressway. And then it was at Parliament that Toronto Police put together this roadblock to try to actually apprehend all of the suspects involved. The Rolls Royce got away, but the driver of that BMW did not. Here's what we heard about the SIU, about what their investigation actually entails, because they're only focusing on that police interaction between officers and this man.
There was the roadblock, and it was going eastbound on the Gardiner, and there was the 8 vehicles plus the BMW that was involved. And the SIU really is looking at kind of the circumstances that led to that, right? Did they have the criminal authority sort of to pursue this individual? So what were those circumstances that led to that? Was there any sort of conversation or interaction prior to the man going over the Gardiner, that sort of thing? Was there a foot pursuit at that time, or did they stop?
The scene here. Our cameras were at the scene here at the lakeshore, Bakari and Lena, when the ambulance arrived and first responders loaded this man who jumped or fell from the Gardiner some 17 meters down to the lakeshore. They loaded him into the back of an ambulance. He has very serious injuries. He was taken to St. Mike's Hospital. to get treatment. Certainly, the situation not only caused a massive traffic headache into the early morning commute, the rush hour commute in and out of the city, but it caused quite a commotion for all those who live in the condo buildings watching from their windows. Here's what one witness who lives in a nearby condo told us earlier today.
Out of nowhere, I hear like a huge, like, bow, like a huge explosion or something like that. And like, I just see the cars like bumping into each other. And then I just see a whole bunch of kids hop out this one car. One of them apparently hopped the bridge, but the rest of them, like, they just stayed there. They were looking down and like, I don't know if I'm going to do that. And then they all got booked.
And so despite what that young man told us, we know there's only one person inside that BMW. It was very likely plainclothes officers who were peering over the edge of the Gardiner when the man fell or jumped. As for the Rolls-Royce, Bakari and Lena, I'm told by police sources the Rolls-Royce has been recovered. It was actually followed by the police chopper as it went into an underground parking garage in an apartment complex. It was abandoned, and the multiple suspects that police believe were inside that Rolls-Royce took off. They have not yet been found by investigators, but this is just a wild situation that started 20 kilometers from where it all ended. North York, shops at Don Mills, and then right here at the Gardiner and Parliament. Back to you guys in the newsroom.
All right, talk about dramatic. Beatrice Baseman reporting live for us tonight. Thank you, Beatrice. The SIU has also been called in to investigate after a man fell to his death during an interaction with police downtown. Police say that they were called to a building at Church and the Esplanade just before 2 o'clock this morning for a person in crisis. Police say the man, identified as a 46-year-old, fell from the building and died. 3 officers suffered non-life-threatening injuries during the interaction. We did get a chance to speak with a witness early this morning.
And I woke up to banging. So I looked outside and I saw somebody hanging out the window, right? So I heard banging, yelling, commotion going on. Looked outside, saw someone hanging out the window, a bunch of police and stuff out front. At the time that I started looking outside, that's right when the fire truck started to appear. So 2 fire trucks came right around 2:30, and the individual was pretty much just yelling that someone's trying to hurt him, someone's trying to kill him, they have a gun, there's a fire in his unit, and he was just trying to get medical attention. He kept saying, please, can you bring the EMS?
Now, because the province's police watchdog is now investigating, police say they won't be commenting any further. Well, a Canada-wide warrant out for a Caledon man wanted for second-degree murder and the death of a food delivery driver in Mississauga nearly 2 years ago. Police say 24-year-old Gurvinder Nath was making a delivery in the area of Britannia and Credit View Roads in July 2023 when he was confronted by suspects who attempted to take his vehicle. Police say there was a physical altercation. The suspects fled in Nath's vehicle. The Brampton man suffered life-threatening injuries and later died in hospital. Well, 2 people have already been arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Now police are looking for the man you see on your screen. This is 25-year-old Devontae Thompson. He's described as being about 6 feet tall with a thin build. Investigators are urging Thompson to get a lawyer and turn himself in. Premier Doug Ford says a group of masked suspects attempted to steal a vehicle from his Etobicoke driveway this morning. And he also talked about what happened while calling for bail reform. Well, let's bring in CP24 Sija Liu for more on the Premier's comments. Sija.
Lena Bakari, Premier Doug Ford has always been very vocal about criticism when it comes to the bail system, and today he was even more passionate after an attempted car robbery at his home last night. Police were called there to his home in Etobicoke around 12:30 a.m. after getting reports of 4 suspects, masked people, in a vehicle approaching his driveway. Police say they tried to run away, but they were able to capture them quickly, and they also found key vehicle programming devices in that vehicle. And Premier Doug Ford is using this opportunity to talk about the bail system, which he feels is broken, he feels is too lenient, and that criminals are getting a slap on the wrist and being let back out into the system. Today, he called for the castle law in Canada, which implies that people have the right to defend themselves with deadly force when confronted with an intruder in a home. This is recognized in some U.S. states, but not here in Canada. He also talked talked about a few recent instances where he feels the bail system has failed. For example, in Peel Region, what you're looking at here, a recent drug bust of $500 million, where only one of those suspects still remains in custody. Here's more from Premier Doug Ford on what happened at his home last night and his concerns.
4 thugs come racing down my street, masks on, ready to take the car out of the driveway. Surprise, surprise, at 12:30, the 2 police cars are there. The chase is on. So they chase him. One guy runs out, takes off. They capture him, and they catch these other guys. But just imagine all the unfortunate people that don't have security there at their house with masks on, and they had all the tools ready to break in and everything. You know, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to be back out. Why don't you guys come over for a barbecue tonight? You know, I'll take care of you better than the police. And thank God the police got you and I never did. Anyways, that's my rant. I'm sick and tired of the weak justice system.
Now, the issue of bail reform has been a much debated topic. We spoke with Shakir Rahim, who is with the Canadian Association of Civil Liberties, and he says that it shouldn't be up to politicians when it comes to whether someone is guilty or not. Here are his concerns with Premier Doug Ford's rhetoric.
Bail can include a lot of serious conditions. You can effectively be under house arrest. You can have a GPS monitor that can be enforced by the police. So it's just not the case that as soon as you're released on bail, you're out on the streets again, as the Premier stated, dealing drugs or what have you. That's untrue. But what I would say is that we need data. We keep seeing this pattern of certain stories being highlighted relentlessly by politicians. But did you know the province does not even know the percentage of people out on bail who have allegedly reoffended? So we have to be careful about drawing misinformed conclusions about our system, and the province should start collecting data so we can actually understand the issue from an evidence-based perspective.
And when it comes to the attempted car robbery at Premier Doug Ford's home, 4 people have been arrested, 2 23-year-old men and 2 teenagers, 16 and 17 years old. They appeared in court early this morning, but Lena Bakari, it's unclear if any of those suspects had a criminal background.
Okay, joining us live from the newsroom, CP24's Sija Liu. Sija, thanks a lot. It's now 5:12. Let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist.
Yeah, it continues to be quite the busy drive as you make your way out this hour, and long-standing problems continue if you're headed out on the eastbound lanes of the 401 through Jamestown Parkway. Still no access to the Express. It's going to be there for some time. They're cleaning up some guardrail repair damage, and that happened from this collision, so you're being forced into the collector lanes. Really slow from well before Highway 25, and then further east on the 401 in the Express through Bayview. Crews dealing with a stall that does have the right lane blocked. One other issue, it's happening through Vaughan, northbound on the 400 in the Express north of Highway 7. It's the left lane and shoulder blocked following this ongoing stalled vehicle on city streets. Crews on scene of a collision blocking lanes on Yonge and Steeles. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
It is 5:12, 24 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
All right, coming up, we're going to tell you about our new pilot project at Hanlan's Beach.
We are getting closer to the opening of the long-delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT, with officials remaining cautiously optimistic about a fall date. We got an update from the interim Metrolink CEO today, though a lot of people think it still sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, CP24's Arda Zakarian joins us live with the latest.
Hi, guys.
Arda.
Today at the groundbreaking for the the East Harbour Transit Hub, we learned some new things about the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, mostly that they have an opening date in mind, a time frame, if you will, and that is looking towards the fall in September. We got an update from the interim president and CEO of Metrolinx. He says they are relentlessly stress testing them right now, and the TTC at this moment has control over the vehicles, but the line has not been handed over to the TTC just yet.
About a week ago, we moved control of the line from the backup operations command center to the TTC's command center at Hillcrest, which means as of today or tomorrow, movement of trains on the line is actually governed by the TTC, as it will be when the line's in revenue service. I would also note that we are relentlessly stress testing both system and vehicles. And this really is the phase of the project that we're in right now. We're doing the things for this line that, frankly, were not done for projects like the Ottawa LRT, demonstrating to ourselves collectively that it's going to perform the way that we want it to on the day that it opens.
And we have a statement from the TTC. It says the TTC, Metrolinx, and Crosslinx continue to work together to get Line 5 ready for revenue service. There are, however, still more phases and milestones to be safely completed before the handover to the TTC occurs. The good news is that this week, train operations were transferred into our transit control center from a temporary control center as testing, training, and construction continue. We leave it to the province to announce an opening date when we are confident the line is ready for safe and reliable operations. So lots needs to happen before we get to that point. Construction on the LRT started in 2011. It was supposed to be completed in 2020, but there were major delays that happened, $1 billion over budget, and now here we are. It's 19 kilometers long, stretching from Mount Dennis to Kennedy Road. Back to you.
All right, CP24's Artis Zakarian. A pilot project's being launched to make Hanlan's beach a safer spot for beachgoers, swimmers, and others by creating an exclusion zone for motorized watercraft.
Yeah, let's get all those details just in time for the summer from CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa.
Bakari and Lena, I took the ferry here to the Toronto Islands on this gorgeous afternoon to find out more about this motorized watercraft exclusion zone now in place at Hanlan's Point Beach. The reason why we're not along the waterfront right now, this is a clothing optional beach. No cameras allowed in this area. But what I can tell you is I did walk to that beachfront to check things out. And there are these new markers that have just been established along the swimming area, about 200 meters from the shoreline. The idea here to block off the area to motorized vessels. That also includes sea-doos, that sort of thing. Jet skis aren't allowed in this area. You can bring your kayak through there. You can bring your paddleboard. But the idea is to protect those swimmers and those people who are on those non-motorized vehicles, keeping them safe as part of this pilot project. It's in cooperation with Toronto Police, with Ports Toronto, the City of Toronto, just to keep people safe after they've gotten some feedback about motorized vehicles that are close to shore that do pose a threat. We are getting some feedback on this situation as well. There's a community group here on the islands. They are called Friends of Hanlan's, and they've released a statement to us. It says in part, after years of seasons filled with incidents where motorized watercraft regularly breached the designated safe swim zone and even came ground onto the shore at high speed, TPS Marine and Ports Toronto piloting one of the global standards for safe waterfronts with a motorized watercraft exclusion zone is a welcome change to make this space safer for beachgoers, boaters, paddleboarders, swimmers, deep lake swimmers, and more. They go on to say as well that they've seen other jurisdictions in Florida and the Mediterranean that have also exercised this same sort of an exclusion zone, that they've seen success with that. Also happening here at Hanlan's Point Beach, there's also kind of a quiet zone. So within 400 meters of the beach, they're asking boaters to keep their music turned down, keep things quiet for the enjoyment of people around here. Now, as we mentioned, this is a pilot project, so the City of Toronto is going to be gathering some feedback through to the end of this summer while this is in place to see if they're going to carry it out in the years to come. Going to throw it back to you.
Okay, CP24's Melissa Duggan. Work's underway to take down an enormous elm tree near Christie Pitts.
This morning, crews began cutting down the tree that's towered over Barton Avenue for decades. It was determined last month that the American elm was nearly dead, so it had to come down. The city says it's one of the largest native elms trees in all of Toronto and one of few survivors of Dutch elm disease, which ravaged about 80% of the city's elm trees in the 60s.
The strategy is going to be basically trying to take it tips down, getting things away from the hydro, trying to get access into the interior of the tree. And then most of the tips will be taken down today, and then we'll get into the larger stem wood tomorrow. And seeing it when it's healthy, and you're like, this is one of my favorite trees to see. When we started seeing it decline, it was like, yeah, it definitely hits you, and it's quite upsetting.
And a team at the University of Toronto's Faculty of Forestry, they've been collecting the elm tree seeds in an effort to grow more of the native species in the future.
5:20, 24 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi right now. Foreign policy is the focus of talks at the final day of the G7 summit in Alberta.
CP24's Andrew Brennan joins us live with more. And Andrew, we know the Prime Minister is meeting with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi this hour. There's been a lot of controversy about this visit.
A lot of controversy, to say the least, Lena. Some of the controversy that we have been hearing has been surrounding the invitation of Modi to begin with. Now, Narendra Modi is the leader of the largest democracy by population and also the largest country by population in the world. And Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, has said several times that he believes it was imperative to invite Modi, even with the allegations against the Indian state that allegedly that there was ties to the Indian government between them and an assassination attempt, and successful attempt, I should say, on a Canadian citizen with ties to a Sikh separatist movement. But with all of that in mind, the two leaders still meeting, and this is not even the headline item that we should get to. A few minutes ago, a Canadian official speaking anonymously to Reuters said no statement on Ukraine, quote, because the Americans wanted to water it down. Now, this was said on condition of anonymity, and it's unclear as to why this was said ultimately publicly to one of the largest wire services in the world. But even with the President Donald Trump not having been a part of the G7's second day, a lot of announcements to be made. You see Vladimir Zelensky, the head of Ukraine, was speaking with Mark Carney earlier on today after a pledge of over $4 billion from Canada. That includes $2 billion directly, as well as over $2 billion in loans using Russian-seized assets as collateral. And here's more from their sit down, or I should say standing up, with the press.
It's a big tragedy for us, and we need support from our allies, and I'm here, and thank you for the military package. It's important for our soldiers to be strong at the battlefield, to stay strong out until Russia will be ready for the peace negotiations. We are ready for the peace negotiations, unconditional ceasefire. I think it's very important, but for this we need pressure.
Now, there is still not expected to be a collective statement from all G7 nations about what happened during this summit. Lena Bakari, that tends to be the case. We know that's not going to happen this time. It's been signaled as much by the Canadian government. But we do expect to hear a statement on Ukraine coming from the Prime Minister. Back to you.
All right, Andrew Brennan reporting live from our newsroom. Thanks, Andrew. You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
It's do or die for the Edmonton Oilers tonight in Florida. We're going to have a preview of Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals next. Well, the Florida Panthers can repeat as Stanley Cup champions tonight with a win over the Edmonton Oilers.
Now Marchand splits the defense and scores!
The Panthers are at home tonight and lead the series 3-2. The Oilers need a win to force Game 7 in Edmonton on Friday. A Canadian team hasn't won the Cup since Montreal did it in 1993. It's been a while. Puck drop tonight is at 8 o'clock.
Right now, it's 5:29, 24 degrees. This is Live at 5.
The province's police watchdog is investigating after a man jumped off the Gardiner while being pursued by officers. The expressway was closed for nearly 10 hours. We'll tell you more about this dramatic police pursuit coming up next.
A Rolls Royce on the Gardiner. A carjacking suspect jumps from the busy expressway, falling 17 meters while running away from officers. We have all the dramatic details tonight.
And not even the premier is immune to auto theft in our province. Doug Ford says 4 mass suspects tried to steal a car from his Etobicoke driveway this morning, describing them as stupid criminals. He also took another jab at the bail system. More on his fiery remarks this hour.
Well, after years of going off the rails, the Eglinton Crosstown LRT is getting closer to opening day. What we're learning about the line's September opening, that's coming up.
Plus, Donald Trump leaves the G7 summit early, but there's plenty of news coming out of Alberta today. Canada issues sanctions against Russia after welcoming Ukraine's president. And we're watching Mark Carney's controversial meeting with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi this hour.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena Latifat.
I'm Bakari Savage. We're learning more about that chaotic situation on the Gardiner Expressway last night. A suspect suffering serious injuries when he jumps off the Gardiner while running away from police.
Yeah, it all started with a carjacking involving a Rolls Royce, and now the province's police watchdog is investigating. Let's bring in CP24's Beatrice Vaisman, who joins us with all the dramatic details. Beatrice.
Lena, Bakari, I've just learned from the SIU that it's a 21-year-old man who remains in hospital this hour getting treatment for very serious injuries after jumping or falling 17 meters from the Gardiner Expressway here at Parliament to the lakeshore down below. Let's show you the video that a viewer shared with us earlier today. It shows kind of the culmination of, let's call it a police pursuit. There was about 8 vehicles, according to the SIU, that boxed in this white BMW SUV on the Gardiner Expressway right at Parliament. They boxed him in and really tried to make an arrest. The sole occupant of that vehicle, which again we've now confirmed is a 21-year-old man, got out of the car, made a run for it to try to evade police, and then jumped or fell from the Gardiner Expressway. He suffered serious injuries. He was tended to by first responders here along Lakeshore, loaded into the back of an ambulance, taken to St. Mike's, where he's still currently getting treatment. This all started, though, Lena and Bakari, this entire story, about 20 kilometers north of where I'm standing. It's Northtown Way in the Yonge and Finch area that police confirmed to CP24 just after 11 o'clock that a vehicle matching the same description as this white BMW SUV that we've shown you was part of an attempted carjacking. It was not successful. They moved on, the suspects did, to the shops at Don Mills, the Don Mills and Lawrence area. That's where they were successful at stealing a Rolls Royce. It sounds like at gunpoint is what we're hearing. A police source confirming to me that the victim of this carjacking saw a firearm and reported it to police. Thankfully, he was not injured, but his Rolls Royce was taken from him. And that's when this pursuit on the ground by officers, in the air by a police chopper driven by York Police, tracked these suspects in the BMW and Rolls Royce south on the DVP, onto the Gardiner, and then you saw what happened when police finally boxed in one of the 2 vehicles. Here's what the SIU told us when I asked specifically about the interaction between officers and this 21-year-old man.
There's no early indication that there were any tasers or any physical contact. The information I have is that this individual, who's the driver of the BMW, fled from the vehicle and ended up going off the Gardiner 17 meters. So he has serious injuries. He's in hospital.
And no, so you heard Christy Danette there from the SIU saying that there was no physical interaction between these officers and the 21-year-old man. I can tell you, certainly the situation snarled traffic in the area, caused quite a commotion when it came to the morning commute in and out of the city. And I can tell you the Rolls Royce that we've been talking about, Lena and Bakari, it has been recovered by police. The same police chopper followed it going into an underground parking garage and an apartment complex. The suspects abandoned it there, and they all ran away. They have not been found by police, but quite the scenario unfolding here in the city. Sounds like a scene right out of a movie. Back to you.
Okay, that was CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. The SIU has been called in to investigate after a man fell to his death during an interaction with police downtown.
Police say they were called to a building at church in the Esplanade just before 2 o'clock this morning for a person in crisis. Police say the man, identified as a 46-year-old, fell from the building and died. 3 officers suffered non-life-threatening injuries during the interaction. We spoke to a witness early this morning.
And I woke up to banging. So I looked outside and I saw somebody hanging out the window, right? So I heard banging, yelling, commotion going on. Looked outside, saw someone hanging out the window, a bunch of police and stuff out front. At the time that I started looking outside, that's right when the fire truck started to appear. So 2 fire trucks came right around 2:30, and the individual was pretty much just yelling that someone's trying to hurt him, someone's trying to kill him. They have a gun, there's a fire in his unit, and he was just trying to get medical attention. He kept saying, "Please, can you bring the EMS?"
And because the SIU is now investigating, police say that they're not going to be commenting any further.
All right, let's switch gears. 537, 24 degrees. A check on the evening drive now with CP24's Adjoa and Siayabwa.
Well, really busy out there on the major routes, Lena and Bakari, and watching ongoing long-standing issues. This is the 401 traveling eastbound. Just as you make your way through Jamestown Parkway, it's been with us since the early afternoon. No access to the express. You're being forced into the collectors. Also, no estimated time of when this will clear. So this is what it's doing to the drive as you try to get out of Milton. Heading into Milton, also getting reports of problems through Guelph Line, reports of a stall in the right lane. I can't see it, but I can see the backlog as you navigate through. And if you're traveling on the northbound 410, starts to slow down as you approach Deals and continues busy pretty much all the way up towards Sandalwood. No live lane issues, just dealing with volume delays. On city streets, crews on scene of an ongoing collision blocking lanes on Yonge and Steeles. I'll send it back to you both.
All right, Adjoa, thanks so much. Well, we are getting closer to the opening of the long-delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT, with officials remaining cautiously optimistic about a fall date. Could this be light at the end of this very long tunnel?
Well, CP24's Arta Zakarian is going to try to answer that question for us. She's joining us live. Hey, Arta.
So today at the East Harbor Transit Hub groundbreaking with Mayor Olivia Chow, Premier Doug Ford, we learned a little bit more about the Eglinton Crosstown LRT and a possible opening, I should say time instead of date. So we're looking into the fall, into September. Now, we got an update from the interim president and CEO of Metrolinx, who says they are relentlessly stress testing now and that the TTC has control of the vehicles, but not the line.
Major milestones have been met in respect of the progress on Eglinton Crosstown, to name a few. All civil infrastructure for the project is complete. When I last saw all of you in April, I talked about operator-driver training resuming on the 17th of March. That happened, and it is complete. All the drivers for the TTC are now trained for this project, and I would want to salute the partnership that we have with the Toronto Transit Corporation.
A statement from the TTC says the TTC, Metrolinx, and Crosslinx continue to work together to get Line 5, which is the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, ready for revenue service. There are, however, still more phases and milestones to be safely completed before handover to the TTC occurs. The good news, though, is that this week train operations were transferred into our Transit Control Center from a temporary control center as testing, training, and construction continue. We leave it to the province to announce an opening date when we are confident that the line is ready for safe and reliable operations. Now, we say we are cautiously and optimistically looking towards the fall because there have been a number of delays. If you've been following this or live in anywhere near a construction zone, you know since 2011 there's been construction on the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. The date that it was supposed to be completed was in 2020. That's long gone. Number of delays and also $1 billion over budget. And now here we are with that possible September date looming. So this is a 19-kilometer long stretch between Mount
We all
Dennis
kind of just
and
got
Canyon
audio
Road.
back.
Sending it back to you in studio.
Okay. CP24's Arta Zakarian joining us live from the newsroom. Right now it's 5:40, 24 degrees. This is Live at 5.
A new Netflix doc is out detailing Rob Ford's turbulent years at Toronto City Hall. We'll tell you what the late mayor's brother, the premier, is saying about it. Well, Premier Doug Ford says a group of masked suspects attempted to steal a vehicle from his Etobicoke driveway this morning. He spoke about what happened while also renewing calls for bail reform.
Let's bring in CP24 CJ Liu, who joins us live with more on the Premier's comments. And CJ, even the Premier is not immune to this, right? Auto theft?
Yeah, that crime happened at his own home last night, and he is using this opportunity to continue his criticism when it comes to Canada's bail reform system, even more passionate than ever, going on a 4-minute rant this morning. As for what happened at his home last night, police were called there around 12:30 a.m. They say 4 masked individuals pulled up in a car in his driveway attempting to steal his car. Police were able to catch the suspects. They tried to run away but didn't get far. And Premier Doug Ford now using his experience to further criticize Canada's bail system, something he's long called broken, saying it's too lenient, that criminals get a slap on the wrist and then go back into society. And he listed a number of recent crimes in the city when it comes to why the system is failing, in his opinion. For example, what you're looking at, Peel Region, a $500 million drug bust the other day, and only one of those suspects still remains in custody. And Premier Doug Ford also talked about an incident that happened in Vaughan last week, where a 35-year-old man was charged after shooting a gun at 5 suspects who were attempting to steal his white Lamborghini. Premier Doug Ford says he wants to help that man. Take a listen.
Did you hear about the guy that these thugs came up, ready to steal his car? They're all in their masks and everything. So I guess he was a hunter or something. He shot up in the air. I don't recommend that, by the way. But he gets charged. I got to find out this guy's name and number, and I'm going to hold a fundraiser for lawyer fees for him. He should get a medal for standing up. It's like down in the U.S., we should have the castle law. Someone breaks into your house, and I know any of these people here, someone breaks in your house and they're coming after your kids and you're coming after your spouse, you're going to fight like you've never fought before. You're going to use anything that you have, be it weapons, baseball bats, knives. You're protecting your family.
And the civil liberties and the castle law that Premier Doug Ford is referring to is enforced in some parts of the U.S., which essentially gives people the right to defend themselves, even using deadly force if there's an intruder in their home. Now, we spoke with Shakir Rahim, who is a director of the Criminal Justice Program over at the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. He doesn't agree with this.
We have a law of self-defense in this country. It's readily applied. It's in the criminal code. And if people do need to use reasonable force in certain circumstances, they are not held criminally liable. So I'm not sure precisely what the need is for that proposed change.
As for the attempted car robbery outside of Premier Doug Ford's house, 4 people have been arrested, 2 23-year-old men and 2 teenagers, 16 and 17 years old, and it's unclear, Lena Bakari, if any of those people have a criminal background.
All right, CJ Liu reporting live from our newsroom. Thanks, CJ. A new Netflix documentary chronicling late Toronto Mayor Rob Ford's rise to power and his chaotic time in office, that is out today.
I remember getting a call from this guy who said he had a video of Ford smoking crack.
Okay, train wreck. The mayor of Mayhem examined some of the most disastrous events ever to blow up in mainstream media. Ford had been caught on video smoking crack cocaine, a bombshell allegation that he eventually admitted to. And that was followed by allegations of public drunkenness and physically knocking over a city councilor.
And Premier Doug Ford, the late mayor's brother, reacted to the film's release.
I don't see eye to eye. I'm not going to watch it. They're disgusting people. Poor Rob's been dead for 9 years, and they just want to keep going after him. I talked to one person that saw it. It's just disgusting. Leave the guy alone. Let him rest in peace. Let his family rest in peace. They're just disgusting people, and just absolutely infuriates me, to be honest with you. They want the truth. Talk to the real people that absolutely loved them. So I'll leave it at that.
A film critic, Richard Krause, says that the docuseries missed the opportunity to show who Rob Ford was beyond the scandal.
Rob Ford was an enormously popular mayor for a time. He was someone who had great ground support. He was someone who started really in Toronto anyway, and now this has gone on to catch on all over the place. But this idea of really populist politics, and the documentary doesn't delve into any of that. They mention things. They mention that he was the candidate that nobody thought would win the first time that he ran. And there is some backstory, but there's not enough backstory. It doesn't give you the details to give you a fully rounded portrait of who Rob Ford really was.
The film weaves together archival footage and interviews with local journalists and members of Ford's circle as it traces the populist wave that swept Ford into office in 2010 and the public unraveling that made him infamous.
It's 5:48, 24 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Still to come, despite anger and outrage over the controversial invite, Prime Minister Mark Carney is meeting with Indian PM Narendra Modi this hour. We'll tell you more.
Foreign policy, that is top of mind at the final day of the G7 summit in Alberta.
And now the focus has shifted to Mark Carney's meeting with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It comes as security officials have linked Modi's government to the murder of a Sikh Canadian man 2 years ago. It happened on Canadian soil. CP24's Andrew Brennan joins us live with more on this controversial visit. Andrew.
Yeah, and a couple of minutes ago, we actually heard from leaders, both Modi and Narendra Modi, the leader of the largest democracy in the world, and the chair of the G7 this year, Mark Carney. So they were talking about investing and encouraging economic and diplomatic ties between the two countries. And as you mentioned, Lena, this particularly in the specter of the killing allegedly with help from the Indian government of a Sikh separatist on Canadian soil has led to many people actually protesting outside of the G7, but they continued to have their meeting today with no issues. Of course, there's a big security fence, and both leaders told the world that they want to continue to try to strengthen ties. So a complete change there in terms of what we were seeing from the prior prime minister on speaking on India. Now let's talk a little bit about the other big meeting that Carney had today with Vladimir Zelensky. Over $4 billion pledged in not just money from Canada, but also loans using Russian seized assets as collateral. So as the G7 wraps up, by the way, very, very behind schedule, Lena Bakari, they're expected to get to the final press conference at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, so 3 hours later than expected. But no final statement or communique from all leaders, but there were smaller ones, 6 that were signed by the G7 leaders dealing with AI, minerals, and the like, but no grand sweeping statement on the major issues of the day. Back to you both.
From the newsroom, CP24's Andrew Brennan. Right now it's 5:54, 24 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, a new bubble zone is coming to Hanlan's Point Beach to improve safety for swimmers, kayakers, and paddleboarders. We'll hear from the Marine Unit next.
A pilot project is being launched to make Hanlan's Beach a safer spot for beachgoers, swimmers, and others by creating an exclusion zone for motorized watercraft.
CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with more on this pilot project. Melissa.
Yeah, it's happening at Hanlan's Point Beach. Think of it as a buffer zone. It's going to keep swimmers safe away from those motorized watercraft with its exclusion zone. And it's within 200 meters of the beach. It's now in place. These new markers put in place on Monday. We've been talking to people here today who've been visiting the beach and asking them what they think about this idea, about keeping swimmers safe by keeping jet skis, speedboats away from the area where swimmers are. Have a listen.
The swimmers can have their heads taken off by a boat propeller. So it's much more dangerous for swimmers than just for people kayaking and canoeing. So yeah, it's a good law. There's a lot of bad rules and regulations in this world, but I think this is one of those rules that is pretty good.
I think it's a good thing, you know, like sometimes people are not unfortunately respectful of the sound and the music for other people, and it kind of ruins it for everybody else. So if it's got to be an exclusion zone so that we can still enjoy the beach, I think it's a good idea.
Hanlan's felt unsafe from disruptive activity, from the large number of boats and fast-moving jet skis near the beach. As a critical gathering place for the 2S LGBTQ plus community for over 80 years, it is important to me that everyone can access and enjoy Hanlan's safely. So this is a pilot project. It involves the Marine Unit with Toronto Police, Ports Toronto, the City of Toronto. They're going to collect some feedback after the end of this summer and decide if they're going to continue this for the years to come. Back to you.
All right, Melissa, thanks so much. What's also interesting here is that boaters are urged to keep music at reasonable levels. We'll have to see how this goes. Thanks, Melissa. 5:58 now, 24 degrees. Feeling more like 30 out there. It's a gorgeous night to be out and about. You've been watching Live at 5 on Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
And we leave you with a beautiful view of our city. Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.